We are honored to be joined by Colonel Patrick J. Callahan, who is the superintendent of the New Jersey State Police. Superintendent, good to see you.
Great to see you as well, Steve.
Colonel, let me ask you this. Guns, gun safety, gun violence, the concealed weapon decision by the courts. We're not looking for you to talk about politics. We're looking for you to talk about law enforcement and safety. What do you believe the impact of the decision of the Supreme Court to strike down the New York law regarding having a concealed weapon, making it more accessible to people? What do you think the impact would be, particularly in New Jersey?
Well, I think we're going to see, I think for one, as the overseers of that process, we're going to see a tremendous increase in the volume of those permit to carry applications. I think again, there's been estimates out there from, I've heard various numbers up to including 200,000 in 1 year. In the past, because of that justifiable need piece, I think last year we might have received 550 applications, of which half were approved. We're going to see that skyrocket, and we just want to be prepared with not only staffing, certainly from a technological standpoint, we want to be prepared for that influx. And then the impact for those that receive them. We have just some concerns with now a lot more guns being accessible in various settings throughout the state, which gives us concern.
Colonel, there's a fair number of people, and please let's put up the website for the state police so that people can find out more about what they do and why they matter on so many levels. But let me ask you this, Colonel. For people who say, you know what, if more people had guns out there, there'd be more people to stop the bad guys. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've heard that argument before, Steve, and I think there's no law enforcement officer in the state or country who are highly trained that wants to draw their weapon pointed at somebody, let alone use it. So you take somebody, an average citizen, arguing over a parking spot, arguing over a seat in a movie theater, and I said it recently a few weeks ago. My very first day as a Jersey trooper was a road rage incident where a legally licensed gun owner had it in the trunk, unloaded, traveled as he should be, got into an argument. They both pulled over. That driver went to his trunk, loaded a .45, and shot that other motorist, luckily who lived. But that wasn't access. That weapon wasn't right in his console. That was in his trunk. Think of what happens now in altercations where people's behavior changes. From my opinion, I didn't do a social study on this, but people act differently when they're armed, and that's my greatest concern. That an incident that might end with a hand gesture, or maybe even a minor physical altercation, or a couple of coarse words, now ends with a trigger being pulled and somebody being dead over a senseless act.
We're speaking with Colonel Pat Callahan. You saw him virtually every day with Governor Murphy and the Commissioner of Health, Judy Persichilli, and a whole range of other government officials. And Pat, let me ask you about that experience of being there with the governor, the Commissioner of Health, and others every day, particularly early on in the pandemic, for a long time. What has been the biggest impact for you personally and professionally from that experience?
You know, it is I always reflect on it as exhausting and energizing at the same time. It literally, up until including today, there's not a day goes by that I'm not on the phone with the Commissioner of Health, Judy Persichilli.
By the way, you did not know, I heard you speak at an event recently. You did not know her very well before the first press conference. Is that fair?
That's fair. Well, January 20th, when we had that passenger coming into Newark Airport, in short order, the commissioner and I got to know each other. That first press conference, I think, was in early February, maybe. So we had about 6 weeks together in our, all of our mitigation efforts and what we were trying to wrap our arms around. But I certainly, I consider her one of my closest colleagues now.
But at the time, one second, Pat, I'm sorry for interrupting. At the time, I think she wondered what you knew about healthcare, and you wondered what?
Yeah, that's what we laughed that when we hung up on that first call. She said, "What does he know about public health?" And I said, "What the heck does she know about emergency management?" And soon we came to respect one another's roles tremendously, and that continues to today. And it was perhaps the greatest convergence of all time of public health and public safety and the New Jersey State Police's role in emergency management. We call it all hazards, Steve, and whether that's a natural disaster, a terrorist attack, a blizzard, or a pandemic, the state police serves as not as the lead, but as the support system that coordinates all of that recovery and response.
Let me follow up on a different question, a very different question. The relationship between law enforcement and the community, particularly communities of color, continues to be a critically important issue. The George Floyd murder on camera only exacerbated that situation and highlighted it in so many ways. And the state police have had a history, well before you became the leader, of racial profiling. Can you comfortably and confidently say that racial profiling does not take place in the state of New Jersey as it relates to the state of police, as it relates to the state?
I wholeheartedly can assure not only New Jerseyans, but those traveling through here of that. I was a young trooper on the road when we entered into that consent decree. We have mechanisms in place from risk management, from a motor vehicle stop data, who was stopped, their race, their gender, the reason, the outcome, were they asked out of the car, were they patted down, the amount of oversight, not only from body-worn cameras and cameras on the dashboards, the amount of oversight and comparing troopers' stops with other troopers on their squad. And is one trooper above the upper control limit? Why is this trooper stopping more Hispanic males? And then the amount of protocols that go into that. It is a robust system. It was one certainly that came about from that tragedy on the turnpike. I had the honor to sit down with those four young black males.
I remember.
And it was a matter of reckoning and reconciliation, and I will be with them in Orlando for the National Noble Conference next week, Steve, to sit with those four gentlemen again and explain our story to the nation.
Morale among your ranks, not particularly high these days. What's the message you would send out there to those who say, I would have loved to have been a cop, I would have loved to have been a trooper, or go through the process of seeing if I qualify, but it doesn't feel like the right profession for me right now? You say what to them?
Yeah, well, I do disagree that the morale is low, at least in the state police. I can't speak.
You disagree that your morale at state police not low?
I don't think so.
Do you think it's different? I'm sorry, Pat. Do you believe it's different at local law enforcement level?
I don't, you know what, it's hard for me to say and speak for other chiefs or other law enforcement agencies, Steve.
But not where you are.
I look at tomorrow, 163 brand new troopers are going to be sworn in tomorrow. Men and women that regardless of the scrutiny and the national narrative about law enforcement and community and accountability and transparency, I'm comforted by the fact that we still have young women and men that are willing to raise their right hand and go out there in what I think is the most noble profession on the face of the earth. And I let them know that when you raise that right hand and take on this responsibility, that integrity and that 101 years, at least in the state police of service, people are watching, and they should be watching because we're held to a higher standard. And those that make that choice to have low morale or put their feet on the floor and say this is going to be a lousy day, they're probably going to be right. But the same holds true for those young men and women that say, I'm going to go out today, I'm going to serve with compassion and according to the Constitution. And that's what I get to see. And I know the negative stuff makes the news, but I get to see positive interactions every single day from my position. And it's pretty special.
For those of us who believe in the rule of law and appreciate the role that law enforcement plays, I want to thank you and your colleagues for your service every day. Colonel, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Steve. Take care.
I'm Steve Adubato. Way more importantly, that is Colonel Pat Callahan, Superintendent of the State Police. We'll see you next time.
Think Tank with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation. Funding has been provided by Atlantic Health System, Rutgers University, Newark, Community Food Bank of New Jersey, MD Advantage Insurance Company, Summit Health, the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, and by Wells Fargo. Promotional support provided by NJ.com and by Insider NJ.
The Community Food Bank of New Jersey, the state's largest anti-hunger, anti-poverty nonprofit, together with our 800-plus partners, delivers food, help, and hope to the hundreds of thousands of neighbors in need who are struggling with hunger right now. The Community Food Bank of New Jersey. Food is here. Help is here. Hope is here. Join us. Go to cfbnj.org now.